that you have based upon anything that you have read or learned that you'd like to get some understanding from, please feel free to ask those questions now. And if not, let's have any community situation that you'd like to report. Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday, teaching, I was thinking about Abel.
About Abel? Mm-hmm.
He died without leaving a seed.
Without leaving a seed, yes.
Did he come back as Seth?
That I could not tell you. But I will tell you this. Abel has been back several times since. According to what we've just read here, read it again, verse 30.
God, the book of Psalm, chapter 104, verse 30. Thou sendest forth thy spirit, they are created, and thou renewest the face of the earth.
Thou renewest the face of the earth. So the spirits are always coming back. The spirits, the scripture speaks about that we go away for, back. Who could tell me, what does the scripture say about that? What generations? How many generations are we away for before we come back? That's a well-known scripture. Go ahead.
It's the third and fourth generation.
Third and fourth generation. All right. And how many years in a generation? Can someone tell me roughly? Yes, ma'am? Say again? Yes, 40. 40. So if we are looking at 3 to 4 generations, how many years is that roughly that we are away on as a cycle from the earth?
60.
Right, so brothers, once we've got our mind made, it's simple mathematics. And mathematics is what it is. So 2 4s are 8, 3 4s are 12, 4 4s are what? 160 years. Right? So, yes.
So, regeneration doesn't just involve those who are being sent back to try to get their life straight. It's everyone.
Mm-hmm. Every single person, that's why today's teaching is going to be quite interesting. We won't go into too much there, but we'll explain some of it. Every single person that was created, none of them were created to not fulfill their value or the vision that the Most High God has in their life. Every woman has fulfilled certain areas of her life. That's why even if a woman was barren in this life, it doesn't mean she was barren in the life before or the life to come. If a woman is barren in this life, there's a reason for it. There's a reason. And we could go through all of those things, but on another occasion. If a man is impotent in that life, his new life, there's a reason for it. Because the Most High God has set us all up to fulfill certain tasks. Every one of us. There's no one in this room that has just appeared here just for the sake of it. Every one of us, we're here for a reason. Some for testing, some because there is an assignment on your life that you have to fulfill. There are certain people that you must meet and you must talk to in this life. And the Most High gives you the energy to do that. That's why some people have a continual drive in them in this life or whatever life He puts them in, because they're meant to fulfill their assignment. Yes, sir.
The latest movie concerning this matter is called Disney Soul.
Disney what?
Soul.
Disney Soul. Explain that, sir.
They picture a black man that died whose soul went up to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got to heaven, there was multiple souls of people that were dying and were being sent back. It was the same spirit, but they forgot who they were. And they learned new things of what a past memory had done. So it was of someone else that they learned, but they came back with it.
Go
They
on.
used the black man throughout the whole. It's animated.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it coming out. It's worth a look. I think I will take a look at that at some point. Yeah, I didn't know it was called Disney Soul, however. But you notice over the years they have been showing movies where men and women have come back, different bodies, but same spirit. So back to your question, Abel has been back many a time. It is impossible for him not to come back because the Most High God has made a circuit for everything. That's why when we read Ecclesiastes, in fact, let's just quickly go there just to bring your point. You know what I want, Ecclesiastes chapter 1.
Yes, sir. Ecclesiastes chapter 1.
Begin at
verse 6.
Begin at verse 3.
Yes, sir. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1 and verse 3. What profit hath a man of all his labor, which he taketh under the sun? One generation passeth away, another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever.
Now, when you jump down to verse 5.
Verse 5. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth.
Stop. So it says the sun rises and goes down, then it hastens to go back to where it came from. Jump down to verse 6.
Con. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually.
Go on.
And the wind returneth again according to his circuit.
See, so everything has a circuit. The wind, the water, the sun, the moon, us. We all have a circuit that we have to complete. So he uses this to show how foolish man's vanity is. That's why he's really saying you spend all this time on you. When you get to verse 12 and so on, you spend all this time on you, but the thing is, this body is going to disappear. So it's not worth it. See all these things people do with plastic, so it's not worth it. Why? Because this body is going to die. It's not going to live long. There's no investment in it. So that's what all that is about. It's teaching us. So then when we jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it.
So it says all things are full of labor. Everything is working together. That's why the scripture in Romans says all things work together for what? For good. All right? So any other points that anybody has? Any other questions based upon yesterday or today? Anything at all? All right, let's go ahead.
Exodus chapter.
What is it, sir?
Chapter 6 and verse 20. Exodus
It's a
chapter
precept or
6. No.
it's a question?
It's a question.
All right.
Exodus 6 and verse 20.
Exodus chapter 6 and 20. What is your question?
This is Amram is I'm not married to his aunt. Was this a lawful or
Okay, let's read it again. I'll read from verse 19, sir.
The book of Exodus, chapter 6 and verse 19. And the sons of Merari, Mahali and Mushi. These are the families of Levi, according to their generations. And Amram took him, Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Aram were 137 years.
All right. Your question?
so that was lawful for him to marry his aunt? I mean, could he marry his father's sister?
Let's read it again.
Exodus chapter 6 and verse 19.
Go on.
The sons of Merari, Mahali, the Isalaki, and Mushi. These are the families of Levi. These are the families of Levi.
Go on.
According to their generations. And Aram took him Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Aram were 137 years.
Again.
So
I got that. All right, jump back up to verse 16.
Exodus chapter 6 and verse 16.
I'm trying to get you to kind of see it yourself.
And these are the names of the sons of Levi, according to their generations: Gershon, and Kohath, and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years.
Go on.
The sons of Gershon, Libni, and Shemi, according to their families. And the sons of Kohath, Aram, and Izhar, and Hebron, and Uziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. And the sons of Merari, Mahali, and Mushi. These are the families of Levi, according to their generations.
All right. Now, is anybody seeing it, or is it vague? I'm trying not to make this a straightforward yes or no situation. I want to see if you're seeing what's actually printed there. It's right there in front of us. Anyone? Anyone?
Oh, okay. It says fathers. It doesn't say his, so like his kindred.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not really his biological father. Right? He's not.
Well, you're on the right track now.
Because it says fathers. It doesn't say his father.
Mm-hmm.
Fathers, like his kindred.
Bloodline.
Bloodline.
To get this, you've got to go back to verse 14, and you've got to read all the way through verse 14 down to verse 30. All right?
Got it.
But the answer is right there in front of us. Verse 23, just read that real quick. And let's see if I can give you something that you can go home and study that some more. Go on.
Exodus chapter 6 and verse 23. And Aaron took him Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Nahshon, to wife. And she bare him Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar.
All right. What I want you to do, sir, write this down, please. I want you to read all the way from 14 down to 23. Then what I want you to do, I want you to cross-reference that with Deuteronomy chapter 18 and 18. And then when you get to Deuteronomy chapter 18 and 18, I want you to read 1 Corinthians chapter 15 through to 39 through to 40. Okay?
Let's go to 15, 39, 40.
Yes, sir. All right. Okay. Any other points real quick? We're going to go live now. Any other questions? Feel free.
How about what's going on today?
Second, sir.
Can we talk about what's going on today?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
what happened, just somebody just texted to me that they said if you had the shot, you can now put a magnet on your hand, on the arm where the shot was, and it'll stick. I guess that's true?
So anyone in here had a shot?
There's
So stick a magnet on that, let us know.
And then there's another one whereas they was talking about, I guess, in some special session, that the shots that they were given, they were going to test before they give it to the kids. They tested on a lot of animals, but some of the animals died. Oh. And they want to give this shot to us anyway. Is that right, Brenda? Yeah. And they know this shot was killing the animals, but they're going to give it to our kids anyway. That's evil.
Yeah, all the animals died.
The animals died. They gave it.
Blessed be the name of Yahweh. Any other points? Right. All right. Let's go. All right. The teaching that we're going to do today, for the title consideration, I want you to write this down. Blood covenant of our ancestors. Blood covenant of our ancestors. I need you to feel free to ask questions as we go through this. It's not a long teaching, so we're good in that regard. Blood covenant. Who can tell me what is a covenant? When we use the word covenant, what does it mean and what does it imply? Yes, Sister Cleo.
Covenant is an agreement.
Come on. A covenant is an agreement. The word covenant, it's an ancient Hebrew word used between two people. And from the word covenant also is extracted a word that is commonly used and is called an oath. That's why you can have a blood covenant and you can have a blood oath, because the two are very much the same. Now, the reason why a covenant is a little bit different, because it's a contract primarily between two individuals, primarily heaven and earth. That's what it's focused on, heaven and earth. An oath is usually done between two men. I give my oath to him, and he gives his oath to me, and so likewise and so on. The Father also has made an oath to mankind on earth, and that has transpired into a covenant. Can't? Just trying to make sure that you understand it. If I was to give you the noun or the dictionary, it says an agreement usually formal between two or more persons to do or not to do something specific. It is also, in the second understanding of it, it is an ecclesiastical solemn agreement between a member of a church. Now, the original, you must remember, the original understanding of the word church is only referred to Israel. It has nothing to do with anyone out there.
Right.
Now, we've been taught that everyone has a church. That's not true. The word church only refers to Israel. That's what the Bible says. Come? That's why we have to go by that. But it also lets us know as well that between two members of a church to act together in harmony with the precepts of the gospel. Imagine that it actually uses the word precept in the dictionary understanding of it. Now that we understand that, let's go to 2nd Ezra. And again, I want you to feel free to ask questions if you so need or have a desire to. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 54. So, let's read 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and 54.
It's the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6 and verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all.
Of what?
Of him come we all.
Of him come we all. Go on.
And the people also, whom thou hast chosen.
And the people also whom he has chosen. Yes, let's go to that script. We're going to be reading to you from this particular book. Good. Let's name the book and give the year of when it was printed as well, sir.
God, this is the book, Light and Truth, collected from the biblical and ancient and modern history, containing the universal history of the colored and the Indian race from the creation of the world to the present time, by R.B. Robert Benjamin Lewis.
The year of the book.
The year the book is printed, 1844.
So, now the reason why I like to give you the year of the book, because I want you to see that these people knew about these things long before now. And it is foolish for you to think, well, they didn't know this. They have known about this since 1844. And it shows you that the people of this world are not ignorant to whom we are. Go ahead and read, sir.
Come. Light and Truth on page 10. The fall of man, his location. The transgression of Adam and Eve, commonly called the fall of man, took place probably soon after the creation and has been most awful in its consequences.
Now, that is speculative. It didn't necessarily take place soon, because what happened was man was in existence on the earth a long time before the Most High set certain things in order. But know this, the law, the verbal law, was in place from the beginning.
Come.
Go on.
For their transgression, Adam and his companion were driven out of the garden
Go on.
to till the ground of Ethiopia, it needing cultivation and consequence of the curse. Adam and his prosperity settled on the river Gihon that went out of the Garden of Eden and compassed the whole land of Ethiopia. And they tilled the ground from which Adam was taken. The word Adam is derived as follows: Adam, Adamah, Adamai, and Adamah, which means earthly. The earth is a rich, dark substance, and from it our first parents were taken. Now, if we admit that Dr. Brown's and other Bible dictionaries are correct in their explanations of the meaning of terms, then the deduction must be that Ethiopia was black, and the first people were Ethiopians or blacks.
Come on. So they are now telling you, the white man is telling you, that the first Adam was black.
Come.
They're telling you this. This is not us. And the reason why I've got to keep pushing this emphasis is because I want you to understand we don't have printing presses. Let's go to Genesis chapter 4. Let's read verse 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 4 and verse 1. It reads, and Adam knew Eve, his wife.
Did what?
And Adam knew Eve, his wife.
Go on.
Come. And she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from...
I have what?
I have gotten a man from the Most High.
We got some reverb here. It's just driving me insane. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I hear.
It's driving me insane. So let's go around. All right. So read what it says again, sir.
Genesis chapter 4 and verse 1. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Most High. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground.
Go on.
And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Most High.
Now, we read this yesterday, and who can tell me what was wrong with that effort? By show of hands, show me someone's hand. Mine was good. It just needed to get rid of the reverb. All right.
My check.
All right. Let's get some of the sisters. All right. Sister Cleo. The ground was what?
Was painted.
What painted?
Was tainted.
Tainted.
The ground was tainted, and that's not what the Most High asked for. He didn't ask for something from the ground.
Right. So tell me, what's the correct term we would use instead of tainted? What's another way of saying it? Cursed. You never go wrong with curse, man. All right. That curse first, all tainted business up underneath that, all right? So the ground was cursed, right? So what was wrong with him bringing the fruit from the ground if the ground was cursed? It's not rocket science. Just tell me straight, please, somebody. Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
That wasn't the requested offering that the Most High wanted.
Say again.
That wasn't the requested offering the Most High wanted.
That was not the correct offering that should be given. All right. Read again, sir, verse 3, 4, and 5.
Genesis chapter 4 and verse 3. In process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Most High. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Most High had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect.
Yeah, not respect. So it's telling us that the offering that he brought, the Most High did not want that. Calm? Had no respect for it. All right. So can somebody please tell me then, why was the Most High upset with it? Just tell me straight. Yes, ma'am. Grace and peace. Genesis chapter 3 and 21. Let's go there and read that real quick.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 21. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Most High God make coats of skins and clothe them.
Right, so he required a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice. 2 Ezra chapter 3 and 4. Let's read that real quick. 2 Ezra chapter 3 and verse 4. Let's read.
The book of 2 Ezra chapter 3 and verse 4. O Lord, who bears rule, thou spakest at the beginning,
Go on.
when thou didst plant the earth, and that thyself alone, and commandedest the people,
Go on.
and gavest a body unto Adam.
So the people were commanded to follow a law from the beginning, All right. Did I see another hand up? All right, let's move forward a little bit more quicker now. All right, so what we find then in 2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 54, Adam was the first, right? Talk to me, right? And then when we go to Genesis chapter 4 and 1, we see that sacrifices was done from the beginning. Now, when we read Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1, let's go there, because we're going to go through the generations kind of quickly. Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1, let's read.
This is the book of the generations of Adam.
Now, the generations, I need to, brothers and sisters, those watching online as well as you here, I need to get your mind into a constant thinking mode. I want you to be able to answer or respond to this the same way if you were being taught your times table. You have times table over here, right? You do that, right? 1 2 is 2, 2 to the 4, 3 to the 6. The scriptures have to be in your mind like that. You know, what's 2 2s? 2 to the 4. All right? What's 3 3s? 3 3s are 9. Right? I could tell that you didn't do well in math at school.
No,
So that's why the scriptures have to be slow to speak. See, so here what we're seeing, that I want you to get the scriptures like that in your head, So, chapter 5 and verse 1. Here we go. Go, sir.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God.
See, in the day that God created man, in the likeness of what?
In the likeness of God.
So we look like him. We look like him. Now, how do we know he looks like us? Let's go back to Genesis chapter 2 And let's read verse 7.
Come.
Right? I want it to flow in your mind like that. That you're not hesitating, you just know it. The same way I know my Pythagoras theorem, and I've never forgotten from the age of 6 on up. I've never forgotten it. You will never forget this. Come? So, let's read verse 7. Read, sir.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And Yahweh thy power, formed man of the dust of the ground.
From the dust of the ground. We just read it in this book.
Come.
Right? The so-called white man wrote this book and knows that the dirt was black and that man was made from it, and said that Adam was indeed a black man.
Come.
Now, admittedly, they're changing all of that now. They're changing it now because white supremacy, that's what it is. White supremacy has now taken the stage. But we can go on the facts that do not lie, can't? So here it says that and the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground, right? We know that ground is black or brown dirt. Can't? Go back to where we were. So let's read it again. Read, sir.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him.
So in the likeness, so that means we have to have eyes, ears, nose, mouth. Those are the images, right? Those are the likenesses, And on top of that, what's the next thing? We have to also have his color. Is that hard for you to get? Easy to get. We have his color also, because we were made from the dust of the ground. So we know then that our God, our Father, looks like us. Now listen, you black men in here, if your wife had a child and that child came out white, you're going to be like, what's going on here? Would you not?
Yes.
Because you're a black man, right? And you're expecting the likeness of your child to reflect you, So this is why we're bringing all that up. So there's no confusion. So when we go back now, did you have a precept for me?
No, Daniel.
Oh, no. Let's read Daniel. Yeah. Daniel now speaks about the Ancient of Days and so on. Let's go. Are we doing with 7 or 10?
I was going to do 10.
Go, do 10.
You mentioned color.
Yeah. Do 10.
The book of Daniel, chapter 10 and verse 6. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color.
Like what?
Like in color.
So anyone who says that there's no color in the Bible, you don't know the scriptures. Read, sir.
Like in color to polish brass.
To polish brass. And brass, as we asked the brother last night, what is brass in the color ratio a derivative of? He said brown. He didn't sweat it, he just said brown. Now when we ask a Caucasian, they go, it's complicated. I said, what's going on here? If he was a Negro, I'd say, nigga. But I'm sorry. Forgive me, please forgive me. Loose lips, sink ships. All right, so, but okay, let's get back to the word. So now let's go back to Genesis chapter 5 and let's read 2.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 2, it reads, Male and female created he them, and blessed them.
And did what?
And blessed them.
So, the first man, the first woman, they were blessed. Why is that so important? Because that word blessing from our ancestors, it immunites all through the bloodline with us in that.
That's right.
Which means you have both a present blessing and a future blessing.
That's That's right.
Now, the only reason why you don't experience your present blessing is because you've chosen not to investigate it. Once you're here right now, he has set a blessing for you. Why? Because you can't be in this life and suffer knowing that you are a child of God. He sets things up that you can make it through this life. You may not be the Beyonce or the Jay-Z with their money. That's irrelevant.
That's right.
But he wants you to be comfortable enough that you can get through this life. That's why the writer said, if in this life only men would have hope, there would be of all men most miserable. So it's not about this life. He set the blessing to get you through this life. Because he knows there's a greater blessing for you in the future. That's why he says in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9, what does he say there? Now, I'm being led by the Spirit, right? That's why I'm jumping around with the scriptures. But let's read what he says there.
Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9. I know thy works.
Read.
And tribulation.
Explain all that.
He knows the works that we go through. He knows the tribulation and poverty that Israel is going through. But thou art rich. We're going to inherit the kingdom.
Come
and
on.
I know the blasphemy, the lies of them which say they are Jews, but they are not.
See? So he's explaining it. He knows that because that's what it means. It should be a standard that when any of us read it, we should be able to explain it in exactly the same way. No hesitation, no stuttering, because that's what it's saying about us. So we know there's a present blessing in this life, but there's also a future blessing because it's a promise that was made unto our ancestors. That in the kingdom we will have that more and that more abundantly. Look, if we make it through and we get through, that is going to be such a mind-blowing experience. The writer says tongue cannot tell. So let's go back now to Genesis and let's finish reading. Let's go from verse, where were we? Verse 3, were we, sir?
Yeah, verse 3.
Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 3. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his...
I'm sorry, Salaki, my error, because I needed to point this point out. Let's go back to verse 2.
Yes, sir. Genesis chapter 5 and verse 2.
Go on.
Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam.
And called their name Adam. So, all of Adam's descendants were called Adam. All of them. How you doing, Adam? I'm doing good, Adam. All is well, Adam? Everything's good, Adam. Everybody was called Adam. Everybody. Even Eve was called Adam. It was after she sinned that her name was called Eve. But she was called Adam too. So let's read on, sir. Let's read.
Verse 3. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness.
Now the reason why that's important, because the word likeness means that we bear the image of him who made us. So we're the same as those, the Father, he made us in his likeness, so we must be like him, so forth and so forth and so forth. All right, go on.
After his image, and called his name Seth.
Go on.
And the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died.
So that shows that we were continually regenerated. Regenerated means to make and bring life. Go on, read.
And Seth lived 105 years, and begat Enos. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years. And he begat sons and daughters.
He begat what?
He begat sons and daughters.
So notice, it's showing you, here's my point that I want you to catch. We read from 1 to 9. Here's the key. Throughout all of that, the Most High has selected only one name from each family. Adam had lots of sons and lots of daughters. But notice, the scriptures only selects one Are you with me so far? Because many of us, we read this and we miss that part. He had lots of them. A man lives 900 years, do you think he's going to have 2 children?
Right.
He's going to be busy with his wife all the time, and she's going to keep on producing and producing and producing and producing. But here's the thing. The Most High God is only interested in one. So that's why as we read it, the names are coming up of who are the ones that the Most High is interested in. That's why we see in verse 6 it says, and Seth lived, because that's the name that the Most High is interested in. Come on. By the time we get down to verse 9, it says, and Enos lived 900 and begat who? Right. So now it's showing us a selection. Now let's go to chapter 6. Chapter 6. Because remember, we just read where he mentions Enos out of all of the sons. Seth, then Enos, and so on. Didn't say what names of all the others. Now in chapter 6, verse 1, let's read.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply.
That when men began to what?
When men began to multiply.
Good. Stop there. Now jump down to 8.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 8. It reads, but Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh.
He found grace where?
In the eyes of Yahweh.
Let's precept that with Sirach chapter 44 and 17, please, real quick.
The book of Sirach, chapter 44, verse 17.
Let's read.
Noah was found perfect and righteous.
Notice, it said perfect and righteous. Go on.
In the time of wrath, he was taken in exchange for the world.
So he, in all his generation at that time, he was the only one that was found perfect.
Come.
Meaning complete. Why? Because he followed the law, statutes, and the commandments.
That's right.
Go on.
Therefore, was he left as a remnant unto the earth.
So, now we're understanding where the word remnant comes from. So the word remnant really is implying just a handful. That's why 2/3 of our people are going to be destroyed, and only 1/3 is going to make it in.
That's right.
That's why in the Apocrypha we read about where it speaks about a cluster of grapes. He knows what it implies to himself, and therefore we have to also make sure that we are a part of that number. So, did you finish it? All right, let's jump back. Let's jump back to verse 9, chapter 6 and verse 8 again. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh.
Go on.
These are the generations of Noah.
These are the generations of Noah. Now you have to look at who is Noah going to select out of his bloodline. Come on. Let's read.
These are the generations of Noah.
Read.
Noah was a just man.
He was a just man. Go on.
And perfect in his generation.
Perfect meaning complete and mature. Maturity simply means that you there are things that you don't idle by anymore. You are complete in your understanding of who you are in this. Read.
Come. And Noah walked with God.
He did what?
And Noah walked with God.
Noah walked with God. Go on.
And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Now, when it uses the word walk with God, it's simply implying that he followed the laws of the Most High.
That's right.
All right. So, that's why another scripture says, and in his laws I meditate day and night. But that's walking with. That's in Joshua chapter 1. Now, read verse 10 one more time for me, please.
Verse 10. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Now, these sons were selected with the family, which meant this is his cluster, this is his remnant. Why? Read the next verse.
The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence.
So violence has been going on since the beginning. So all this nonsense you hear in Christianity where they say in the beginning was peace, everybody loved each other, blah, 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 and kumbaya. That's all man-made fiction, right? Violence has been going on since the beginning. 3 different groups of people: the sons of God, sons of the nation, sons of the wicked. And they had to learn to separate themselves from those things that was going on. That's why that's where we get the topic from the New Testament. It says, come out from among them and be you separated. Because everybody's doing their thing. We can't become contaminated with what they're doing. We must keep the laws of the Most High God. Now, read verse 11 again, and then we're going to jump, verse 11 and 12, and then we're going to jump forward.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 11. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth.
Upon the earth, all flesh. Now jump to verse 17, please.
Verse 17. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth.
So what he's basically saying, in a nice way, I'm going to kill everyone. I'm going to kill, use a nice southern term, all y'all. You're all going to die. Read.
Salaki, I do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die.
Go on.
But with thee will I establish my covenant.
Stop. That's a word you should highlight, underline, put asterisks around, because he said, but with you, I'm going to have my covenant with you. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The book of Sirach, chapter 44, verse 18. An everlasting covenant I have made with him, that all flesh should perish no more by the flood.
Come. So let's go back. Read it again. Read 18 again.
Come. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 18. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee.
With thee. So here he says, your wives, your sons' wives will come, your sons will come. These are the ones that I've selected. This is the remnant. Remember, everything about Noah is to give us some understanding that there's going to be a cataclysmic extirpation that's going to take place. And it took place, destroying everything. Now, we ought to look at this and take the scripture a more earnestly, recognizing that when Yahweh comes back, Yahweh Shai comes back, he's coming back to bring complete catastrophic actions to this earth. Destroying everything. Remember, what they did was, he spent 100 how many years did he spend building the ark? That should be easy. I'm disappointed. How many years did he spend building the ark? Really? How many? No.
600.
No, it's been, yes, over here, thank you. You know I'm going deaf now, right? 170 years. 120 years. 120 years. How I always, my memory hook for that is always to look at it as 12, just with a 0 at the end. And I've never forgotten that. 12 tribes. They're going to own it. 120 years. Now, in that 120 years, he was preaching to all the people. Did they listen?
No.
Some of them were walking by across the other side of the road. I'm not walking near that big old monstrosity called an ark. Where's he going to get water to float that big old tub? Well, you soon found out, because you're going to be under the ark. So here he's showing us We're in that time now, where the preaching and teaching's been done to wake up our people to who they are. But are they waking up? No. They're still skylarking, going to the club. And it seems kind of funny as well that there's rain and thunder and lightning going outside as we teaching about this. Spirit of the Lord is coming down now. So here is letting us know that he's going to establish his covenant with who?
Israel.
So can you read 18 again, please?
No.
Read 18 again for me, please.
Genesis chapter 6 and verse 18. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee.
You see, we just done read this and precepted, and you're still, come on. As I said to you before, it's going to be like your times table. The moment you hear it, you know the answer to it. Can't? All right. So now that we have that, I want you to go to chapter 9. Chapter 9, and let's read verse 19.
The book of Genesis, chapter 9, verse 19. It reads.
In fact, let's get for better disclosure for everybody's understanding, start from 18. Go ahead.
Come, Genesis chapter 9, verse 18.
Hold it. Let's go with 17.
Come, Genesis chapter 9, verse 17. And God said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant.
Go on.
Which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth.
Now, the reason why it says all flesh that is upon the earth, because all flesh was dead by this time. But he's only speaking about the family of Noah. Are you with me so far? Good. So then when we read on verse 18, read.
Genesis chapter 9, verse 18. And the sons of Noah.
So now he's letting you know who are the all flesh.
Come.
Go on.
And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth.
Now, the reason why that's important for you to get that is because of this. Remember, he just done said, this is what I'm going to use as a covenant with all flesh, and he names all the flesh, right?
Come.
But he has to get even more specific because he sees the future when we don't. That's why many of those in Christianity will say, see, the covenant was with us all flesh. Because we come from Japheth, so the covenant's with us. Or we come from Ham, so the covenant's with us. Are you seeing that?
That's what they're coming with. Come.
This is why you have to deal with this carefully. Read it again. So read what you were just reading again.
Genesis chapter 9 and verse 18. And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan.
So that would mean that Canaan's in this covenant, right? Based upon what you've just read, right? But then when we read verse 19, read.
These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread.
Was the whole earth overspread. Let's jump down to 24 now.
Verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him.
Go on.
And he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren.
Remember, we just read back in verse 18, it said, and Ham is the father of Canaan. Now he's been cursed now by the father. Now, when you say, well, he says, remember, I've had people say, oh, it's because he was homosexual. Shut up. Shut your mouth. Because you don't know what it means.
Right.
You quick always to want to make black people homosexuals. And let me stop there. It has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with the law. He was not supposed to see his father's nakedness. Got my precept, doctor? So when the nakedness of the father was seen by the son broke the law. Because what did he do also? When he saw the nakedness, he started to laugh at his father's nakedness. But what happened? He was drunk. And you know, when you're drunk, you lose control, you fall. And sometimes, you know, people drunk, they take their clothes off and carry on very foolishly. You see? Again, when I said there should be precepts being found, you brothers are slacking. Because you should have come up with some precepts at this particular point. All right. So, and notice, I blame you, not the sisters. Because they'll come up with something. I need you, brothers, sharp like a razor blade here. Go on. All right. So, this is what it was explaining to us there. So now we're jumping to verse 24 and read what it says again.
Genesis chapter 9 and verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him.
Go on.
Come, verse 25. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren.
Unto his brethren. Go on.
And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem.
Blessed be the Lord God of Shem. So, out of the three sons, now he puts the other sons aside. He removes Japheth, he removes Ham, and he now says Shem is going to be blessed.
That's right.
Of all of them. So now the covenant is only with the son who is Shem. Does that make sense now? You'll read it, it's right there. So he says, and he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Cain shall be his servant or this servant. You see that? Right? Now, it rules out Japheth because in verse 27 it said, read,
God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem.
Read.
And Canaan shall be his servant.
Shall be his servant. So we already see the order that's taken place here. You understand this so far? Come on. Let's go to chapter 11. Chapter 11. Chapter 11 and 11. Let's read.
The book of Genesis, chapter 11 and verse 11. And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years, and he begat sons and daughters.
Go on.
And Arphaxad lived 35 years, and begat Selah. And Arphaxad lived after he had begat Selah 403 years, and begat sons and daughters.
Go on.
And Selah lived 30 years, and begat Eber. And Selah lived after he begat Eber 403 years.
Now, to bear in mind, Eber is the name where we get the word Hebrew.
God.
Eber is where we get the word Hebrew.
That's right.
That's why when over in the Africas, there are some groups that descend from Eber. But here is what you got to remember. All it means is from the past.
That's right.
And from the past comes our language, which is Hebrew. Come? So, let's read where we left off.
Genesis chapter 11 and verse 15. And Selah lived after he begat Eber 403 years.
Go on.
And begat sons and daughters.
Go on.
And Eber lived 34 years, and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years, and begat sons and daughters.
Sons and daughters. From there, jump down to verse 26.
Verse 26, it reads, And Terah lived 70 years, and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran.
So those are the three brothers there, Khan. Abraham and his brothers. Khan, are you still with me, everyone? All right. From here, let's go to Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 12 and verse 1. Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee.
Now, why does he want that to happen? Because remember what the precedent has been said, that out of every generation or family, he picks one.
Come.
Are you with me so far? I'm making this as easy as I can so you, when you're going through this, it just makes pure sense to you. I understand, because I know I was confused for a long time because the teachers weren't teaching it systematically. This is systematic. So let's read it again.
Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1.
Read.
Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee.
Go on.
And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee.
So you see now, he says, you, Abraham, I'm going to make of you a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Remember, we just spoke about the blessings a few minutes ago.
That's right.
God, we spoke about present blessing and future blessing, did we not? All right. So it's important that you keep it into context. Here's why this is good for us. Because if you ever begin to doubt your circumstance that you're dealing with and you're wondering, how am I going to make it through? Remember, I'm in a present blessing. Because the name of Abraham is my forefather, is my ancestor. Right? And therefore, the Most High is already making a way for me. I just have to be patient and trust him and believe him. God, read.
Verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
So, all the families of the nation are going to be blessed. Which families? The 12 tribe families.
That's right.
That's what it's speaking about. Because you'll hear Esau talk about, say, everybody's going to be blessed. No, they're not. Only the 12 tribes are going to be blessed. Oh, we all with this, brothers? Brothers, you hanging with me now? All right, good. From here, let's take it a step further, if you don't mind. Let's go to Genesis chapter 15. Genesis, question? Yes, let me have your question over there. 12 and 2.
I'm sorry, 12, 3.
12 and 3?
Yes.
Come on.
He said that those that bless you, bless, those curse you, curse,
Right?
and through him, every nation will be blessed.
Yes?
Okay, you said that applies to Israel only. So is that blessing future?
Yes, it is definitely future because, let's read it again. Let me explain. Read 2, come forward, sir.
Come. Genesis chapter 12, verse 2. I will make of thee a great nation.
I will make of thee a great nation. Go on.
I will bless thee and make thy name great.
And make thy name great. Go on.
And thou shalt be a blessing.
And thou shalt be a blessing. For those of you that are listening, in case obviously you didn't hear, the question was, is this future? Now we're going to read verse 3. Let's see.
Verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee.
And I will bless them that bless thee. Because remember, right now, he's not in the position for anyone to bless him. So this obviously is future, it's down the road. Now, notice it's speaking about him and his descendants. Why that's so important is this, and if I may just do a spoiler alert. Remember when he traveled through a particular nation and the man saw his wife and wanted her and basically took her. And he said to her, his wife, said, you are my sister. When the Most High God came to him and said, you're a dead man, you touch her, you're done. He woke up the next day and he said, why did you do this to me? So in the end, he sent him away with cattle, servants, gold, and silver. That blessing came to him as a future because it had not yet happened yet. So that was future. Are you with me so far? So then when we go back and read verse 3 again, let's read it.
Genesis chapter 12 and verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee,
See?
and curse.
So, those who have blessed him, he's going to bless them. He's going, because you put blessings on his children, he's going to provide for you for doing that. Go on.
Come and curse him that curseth thee.
And there were those who cursed them too. Because remember, it's not just speaking about him, it's speaking also about his bloodline. Even the 12 tribes that was in him, but that was yet to come out. Come on. Go ahead.
The same book, it's just chapter 27, verse 29.
Chapter 27, 29. Let's read.
Right here. The book of Genesis, chapter 27, verse 29. It reads, Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee.
Good.
Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee.
Come on. That's a good precept right there. Read it one more time to make sure everybody's in line.
Come, the book of Genesis, chapter 27, verse 29. It reads, Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee.
Read.
Be Lord over thy brethren.
Read.
And let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee.
Come on. All right, so that's good right there. All right. Was there anything more to your question, ma'am?
Like this.
Oh. What was your question, ma'am? What was your point? You said something else. I missed it.
No, I figured it out.
You figured it out? All right. So let's make sure that you're clear on it, so that everybody else, because your question could help someone in here. See? So what was the run it by me again?
No, I was just saying, the blessing is simply to come upon us.
Yes.
It has come.
Calm. Exactly.
You look at us in this state in our
Calm. Absolutely.
It ain't with us.
Right.
So,
Right. Good. The question that she then said was that the blessing that should be on us from our forefather Abraham has not come on us yet, because we just need to look around and see the state that we're in to see that we're not blessed. So, but there's a reason why that is, and I'm going to answer it for you. Because, when you put lessons like this together, you always got to think about the questions that people are going to ask. So I have your answer for you, man. I got it. I got you. All right. So that was a good question because of the fact that we're not seeing it yet, right? Let's read verse 3 one more time, please, so that we can move on.
Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
Be blessed. Now let's go to chapter 15 and 18, please. 15 and, what did I say? 18. Let's go.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 18.
Right.
In the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abram.
See that? Now, the covenant is with Abram. Remember, that's why I've been pushing the word covenant all the way through. So everywhere you see where he says, I'm going to make the covenant with you. Remember, Noah said, blessed be the Lord God of Shem. So the covenant was on Shem, not on his brothers now. And we explain why that was, because if you don't explain it, then they read the verse before. They said, see, it's on everybody. Remember, we read that? So now, he says here in Genesis chapter 15 and 18, it says, in that same day, what happened here?
Yahweh made a covenant with Abram.
He made a covenant with Abraham. Go on.
Saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Now, the reason why this is important is because everything that you have learned in school and in history about where the land of our forefathers is has been wrong. Everything. Because they're trying to minimize it. The Bible says we are a great people. So we need a greatness of land that will allow its hold of us. Plus, remember, the land that we're going to eventually get was indeed the Eden in the beginning. The answer to that, the proof of that, is in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 14. So that's your precept. Right, go there. Let's go there and read it. That's your precept that you link in with Genesis chapter 15 and 18. Go ahead, sir, and read.
The book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 14. And the name of the third river is Pentecost, that is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria.
See? So notice, if you can imagine, or if you keep the map in your head, you can see how far that is. Go on.
Come. And the fourth river is Euphrates.
You finish there?
That's it.
Right. So then it gives you, so when you go back now to 18, to 15 and 18.
Come. Genesis chapter 15, verse 18. In the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt.
So the river of Egypt, going all the way over there. Go on.
Unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Euphrates running all the way down into Arabia.
Come.
We've got some land. We really have. But anyway, now from here, now if you were to read, if you would stay in that verse and read in verse, yes, we're going to read it. Let's read verse 19, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Let's read that.
Come. The Kenites and the Kizatites and the Commodites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rephaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites.
Now, all these nations here are important because the scriptures is linking us to them in a certain way. Let's go from here to chapter 22. Chapter 22, and let's read verse 17.
Come, the book of Genesis, chapter 22, verse 17. That in blessing.
In what?
That in blessing.
Go on.
I will bless thee.
I will bless thee. Go on.
And in multiplying, I will multiply thy seed.
Go on.
As the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which I upon the the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies.
Now, the word, the gates of his enemies, you need to underline that, because that goes back to what we just read in Genesis chapter 15, 18 through to 21. All the Girgashites, the Jebusites, and the Kenites, all of those people are the gates that it's speaking about here. That's why it says, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. Those are all the ones we just read. We're going to possess those gates and those shores. Come on? Makes sense? All right, from here, let's go to Genesis chapter 17 and 10, please. Let's go back. 17 and 10.
The book of Genesis, chapter 17 and verse 10. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you, and thy seed after thee.
All right, now let's jump back up to verse 9 because I want it to be clear.
Come. Genesis chapter 17, verse 9.
This is the beginning of the covenant. Let's go.
And God said unto unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant.
Thou shalt what?
Thou shalt keep my covenant.
Go on.
Therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations.
In their generations. In the areas where we're still reproducing and bringing back our people. Go on.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep.
Which you must keep. This is my covenant, which you must keep. You must put a bracket around that, parentheses, or highlight it. Read.
Between me and you, and thy seed after thee, every man-child among you shall be circumcised.
That is why the act or the sign of the covenant is on the men. Their foreskin must be removed. That's how they knew who the Israelites were when they were capturing them. They would just strip them naked. And they would see that the covenant was on them. Are they covenanted? Yes, they are. Bring them over here. Those are the ones we want. They didn't want the ones that had their foreskin, because those were the Hamites. Because we followed that particular law strictly, because at birth, that was done away with. Come on? All right. Now, when we say, well, was it immediately? But, well, remember this. We followed the law, and the Most High taught our people that within the first 7 days, that was the time to do it, because that's when the blood will coagulate and stop any overbleeding. Because we knew this. Now, isn't that something? The other nations didn't know this, you see? And those, as the scripture said, though you once knew this, you see? So here, the scriptures is making everything very plain to us. Now, let's read it again. Let's read where we were.
Genesis chapter 17 and verse 9. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generation.
Read.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee.
Read.
Every man-child among you shall be circumcised.
Read.
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you.
Read.
And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man-child in your generations.
Read.
He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
Read.
He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
So it's an everlasting covenant. That means even in the kingdom, our men will still be showing this sign. Con? Yes, sir. Grace and peace, sir.
Philippians 3:5 and 8 to show that even then that it's still being done.
Con, sir. Let's go there.
That's Paul.
The book of Philippians, chapter 3 and verse 4. Read down into it. Though I might also have confidence in the flesh, if any other man thinketh that he hath whereof he might trust in the flesh, I more. Circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee.
So you see, it's a law that we have always kept. Does that make sense to you? All right. Now, where were we?
We just read all the way up to.
All right. Okay, let's go back to chapter 17. Let's read verse 19, please.
Genesis chapter 17, verse 19. And God said, Sarah, thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed.
Shall what?
Shall bear thee a son indeed.
Go on.
And thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him.
Notice, this is a covenant by promise, not by law.
Come.
You need to write that down under or nearby or in the column of that script
Come.
so that you understand what it's reflecting, because it will confuse you with the other things I'm going to say a little bit later. Read it one more time, sir.
Genesis chapter 17, verse 19. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac.
Go on.
And I will establish my covenant with him.
See that? Notice he always picks one. Even though there was a older son who was Ishmael, the Most High God is dealing with a what? What did I just say? He's dealing with a covenant by promise. A covenant by promise. Why do we know that? Because we read it later on in Romans chapter 9. See? So, jump from there, read verse 20.
Verse 20. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
So you see how the fairness of Yahweh, that even though that he was not part of the promise, the Most High God did not rule him out. That's why today when you look at the Arab nation, they're one of the richest people on the planet. They own the oil. And that's why America's this damnable country is always trying to play tricks on them to take away their oil reserves. Do you know they have so much oil that in the next 100 years, if they never drilled for any more oil, they are all right to continue to sell worldwide and never even miss a beat? That's how powerful they are.
They control the market.
Yeah. Over the next 100 years, if they never drill for any more oil, the oil that they have is enough to cover the whole world, and no one can ever challenge them.
That's right.
And America hates that. Because that amount of power, not in the so-called white man's hand, that's a nightmare for them. You see? So, let's jump down. Let's read the next verse, verse 21, because now it deals with the covenant. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 17, verse 21. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac.
So now it's making it perfectly plain there. Again, you need to highlight it and make it known. He says, my covenant will I establish with Isaac. Go on.
Come, which Sarah shall bear unto thee.
So he's making it very clear. This boy is not coming from no other loins but your wife Sarah. Go on.
At this time, and Salaki, at this time in the next year. And he left.
No, you can leave it from there.
Yes, sir.
So what we have here is a covenant by promise and not by law. Come? All right. Now let's go to Romans chapter 9. Now let's go there. Right. See, we've done a heavy exercise in the Genesis. I hope you will remember that. And if you made good notes, I think you can go back over it and deal with it. So, Romans chapter 9, and I want us to begin reading from verse 4.
Yes, sir. The book of Romans chapter 9 and verse 4. Who are Israelites?
Who are what?
Who are Israelites?
Making it very clear, this is not for everyone, but for who are Israel. Isn't it a wonderful thing to know that you're an Israelite when you read things like that? Doesn't it not make you feel good? Believe me, it makes me feel like I want to rock and roll. Because to know that he has picked us from all the other people that's on the planet.
That's right.
Read.
Who are Israelites? To whom pertaineth the adoption?
The adoption. Now the adoption is the bringing back. Go on.
And the glory.
And the glory. What is the glory? The kingdom to come, according to Matthew 6 and 13, 1 Chronicles chapter 29 and 11. Read.
And the covenants.
And the covenants. The covenant, the covenant, the covenant. That's the laws. So the laws are with us. Go on.
and the giving of the law.
And the giving of the law. Only we can give the law. No one else can. Go on.
And the service of Yahweh.
The service of Yahweh, dealing with all of those who are prophets. Only Israel is prophets.
That's right.
How all these other people go, well, I'm prophet this, I'm prophet that. No, only Israel is the prophet. Go on.
And the promises.
And the promises. That's the key. That's the one that we're working with today. And the promises. Come? All right. Now let's jump from there. Let's go to verse 7. Let's read on down.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 7.
Read.
Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children.
Now, that lets you know that because you are of the seed of Abraham doesn't mean that you are a part of the promise. Doesn't mean because you come from Abraham, but we are our father Abraham. But watch what it says. Read.
Are they all children? But in Isaac.
But in Isaac. Specific. Go on.
Shall thy seed be called.
Shall thy seed be called. That's possessive now. Go on.
That is, they which are the children of the flesh.
The children of the flesh. Go on.
These are not the children of God.
They are not the children of God. In other words, a man can have 12 children. And out of the 12 children, only 4 of them are the ones that he desires and chooses to be his. The others are his only in the flesh, but not in what he's about to endow on them. Go on.
But the children of the promise.
But the children of the promise. Remember, this was a promise. What did we say earlier on? It's a covenant by promise. If you remember that statement, you won't go wrong with the scriptures. You won't get confused between the covenant of the Lord. This is a covenant by promise. Read on.
But the children of the promise are counted for the seed.
Counted as what?
Counted for the seed.
That's according to Isaiah chapter 41 and 8.
That's right.
Right, keep going.
For this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac.
Go on.
For the children, being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil.
They haven't done anything wrong at this point. Go on.
That the purpose of God, according to election, might stand.
Go on.
Not of works, but of him that calleth.
Go on.
It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger.
Read.
As it is written.
As it is written. Meaning, if it makes that statement, it means it's written before time somewhere else. Where was that? Who can, by show of hand, who can tell me where was it written beforehand? It said, as it is written. Where is it written? I see one hand, two hands. Well, the brothers, you're surprising me now. The hands are going up. All right, good. All right, let's check you all out. Let's check you all out. Let's start with the brothers, because I need to know if the brothers are on par here. All right, Johanna, just tell me the verse. That's it. Nothing more. Don't add. Go on.
Malachi 2.
All right. Yourself. You were gonna say. All right. Isaiah? What you got?
Malachi, but it's,
All right. Bye. All right. Let's have yourself here. Casey.
The as it is written about Jacob I love.
Come on.
Malachi 1.
Malachi. All right. Sue over there. Very good. So it is in Malachi. It is in Malachi. You can't get lost from Malachi. Let's read on.
Romans chapter 9 and verse 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved.
Read.
But Esau have I hated.
But who?
But Esau have I hated.
Go on.
What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid.
Read.
For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy.
In other words, he could do whatever he wants to do.
That's right.
You know, people say, well, that's unfair, God. He can do whatever he wants to do. That's what being God is all about. Can't? So, he makes it very clear there. Read that again. Read that part again.
Romans chapter 9, verse 15. He saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy.
Go on.
And I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion.
Will have compassion. Good. All right. From there, let's go back to Genesis chapter 28. Genesis chapter 28. And let's look at what further ingredients this story has for us. Question? Yes, sir.
Were you looking for the other half of that where it said that it would have the two nations in the world? Was that?
Yeah, that's it. That's in Genesis chapter 25 and 25.
Okay.
Right.
No, I didn't know if you wanted both or not.
No, I've got that. That one's very much seared into my brain. So that one's good. That one's good, Doctor. All right, so Genesis chapter 28, and we're going to begin at verse 13. All right,
Okay.
Genesis 28 and 13. Let's read.
The book of Genesis, chapter 28, verse 13. And behold, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father.
So this is important. Why is it important? Because we established from the beginning that this whole thing, remember, we went right back to Genesis and we came all the way through the generations through Genesis. And the whole purpose of doing that was to establish the fact that this people, this God, he's only the God of his people and no one else. So when we read it now, this is what it says. Read it again, sir.
Genesis chapter 28, verse 13. And Yahweh, Salaki, and behold, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father.
He says, I am the God of Abraham, thy father. I am his God. No one else. He could have said the Hittites. He could have said the Amorites. He could have said the Jebusites. He didn't say that.
Come.
He said, I am the God of Abraham, thy father.
That's right.
Read.
And the God of Isaac.
And the God of Isaac. So now we see those two there. Because remember, there are three that we are attached to. It is Abraham, Isaac, and who's the next? Jacob. All right, good. Let's go, sir. Read.
The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed.
And to thy seed. Is that what it says?
Come.
And to thy seed. Read on.
And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth.
So that means we are going to be so plenteous that in that age, when the Most High will have his feast of Pentecost, his feast of Passover, we are going to be like ants covering a whole desert plain.
That's right.
And it will be organized that you can imagine the gigantic chariot of the Most High God will fly over and shade us from the sun and even be blowing down some air conditioning. It will be immense. It will be marvelous before our eyes. And angels will be at present too. It's going to be spectacular. Do you really believe the Most High God is going to let the red carpet of Hollywood Oscars and those garbage outdo his event? Really? Do you think so? No. It's going to be so marvelous that when you will dress up to come, you feel like you are somebody. You are a somebody. Let's just stick with that. You are a somebody, Con. So when we read it now, read, sir. Read
Genesis
14
chapter
again.
28, verse 14. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth.
Go on.
And thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
And that verse 14 there is speaking of Jacob. Because remember, the 12 tribes came through Jacob. They can't be spread to the east, north, west, and south if it doesn't come through Jacob. Because it didn't come through Isaac that way or Abraham. It came through Jacob. Come? Making sense? All right, from there, let's go back to Genesis chapter 17 and let's read verse 5, if you please.
The book of Genesis, chapter 17 and verse 5.
Let's
it
read.
reads, Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee.
Read.
And I will make thee exceeding fruitful.
Go on.
And I will make nations of thee.
Go on.
And kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed
Read.
after thee.
Read.
In their generation.
In their what?
In their generation.
Read.
For an everlasting covenant.
An everlasting covenant. Finish it.
To be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee.
From there, let's go to Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 40. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 40. Let's go.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 40. And if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespassed against me.
Why? Because we broke our covenant. We broke the law. You see, there's a difference between the covenant of promise and the law that was given to us. We broke it. And when we broke it, what did that mean? Can someone tell me, what did it mean? It's self-explanatory. We've dealt with it all the time. There's nothing in that. So what does it mean, brothers, sisters? What does it mean? What does it mean? Go ahead. Go ahead. Say again. If we broke it, what?
When we broke it, we placed ourselves on the curse that was spoken about and said, "Run the ball."
Let me hear what you're going to say.
Basically, you break it and you face the judgment.
So if you break it, you face the judgment. All right, come on. All right, let's read it one more time.
Leviticus chapter 26, verse 40. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers
Go on.
with their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me.
Continue all the way through.
Come, and that I also have walked contrary unto them,
Go on.
and have brought them into the land of their enemies.
Go on.
If then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob,
Go on.
and also my covenant with Isaac,
Go on.
and also my covenant with Abraham
Go
will
on.
I remember.
See, so you see, right in that verse there, it's covering everything. Verse 42 is covering everything. Covenant of Jacob, covenant of Isaac, covenant of Abraham. Now, precept, go ahead, let me hear.
It shows 1 Kings 8:47.
All right, let's.
Yet, if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent, and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and done perversely, we have committed wickedness.
God, good precept. Right. So, Lord, let's go back. Read.
47.
Say again.
You got to read.
Right.
They were not.
8:47. It was I'm sorry. It was 1 Kings 8:47. 1 Kings 8:47.
All right. Back to you, Captain.
Come, Leviticus chapter 26, verse 42. Then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, And also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land.
Go on.
The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them. And they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, because they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorreth my statutes.
Now, this was a promise that was made to Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham.
Come.
This was a promise made to them. Are you with me so far?
Come.
Now, what verse did you stop, sir?
That was verse 43 I stopped.
43? All right, read 44.
Leviticus chapter 26, verse 44. And yet, for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away.
Hold it. Now, this is very important. And this is why it's easy to read over and miss it. Read it again.
And yet, for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies,
Go on.
I will not cast them away.
Read.
Neither will I abhor them,
Read.
to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am Yahweh their God.
Now, why did he not break the covenant with them? Why did he not break the covenant with them? Can someone please tell me? All right, go ahead, sir.
Because of the promise he made to Abraham.
Because of what?
Because of the promise he made to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, because of our forefathers. The relationship he had with them was what saved our lives, basically.
All right, so because they broke the law, right? But he made a promise with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that was a covenant of promise. That was not broken.
Come.
And because that was not broken, that's why everything still stood for us to enter into the everlasting covenant that he has for us. Boy, it's so good when you see how he set this thing up.
Come.
Isn't it? And that's why today, when you hear people talk about promise, you don't understand promise.
Come.
Because if you understood promise, you understand you don't break it. You don't break a promise. Better you don't say, I promise. Better you keep your fat lips closed than to go and say it, because you put everyone in trouble. Can't? That's why the Bible warns us about making an oath or even a pledge. If you make it, you must follow through it. I'm going to tell you, there was a sister, and my wife bears witness to it. Going back about 14 years ago, she made a pledge. And she made a pledge that she was going to do something. And it took her 14 years, but she completed the pledge just the other day. And to me, I was like, don't worry about it. She said, no, I made a pledge unto the Lord, and I have to fulfill it. That shows that some of us understand pledge or an oath or a promise. You mustn't break it. Are we understanding this, brothers? Because you always make promises to children and you break it, not realizing that's drastic. You don't do that mess. All right, let's go back now. Let's finish. Read what you got. Read. You didn't get to verse 45, did you?
No, sir.
Let's get there.
Leviticus chapter 26, verse 45. But I will, for their sakes, remember the covenant of their ancestors.
See? Right there's your answer. I will, for their sakes, remember the covenant of their ancestors.
Whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt.
Go on.
In the sight of the heathen, that I might be their God. I am Yahweh.
That's why when he comes back, he's going to make his entrance so drastic. The world is they're going to curse all sorts of words. All sorts of slurs are going to come out of their mouth. We did that to his people.
That's right.
They're going to kill us.
That's right.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. For what you did to us, the Bible says that we will have the pleasure of giving it to you twice as much. Whilst we're out there, just go ahead and read it. Go to Revelations. Let's go there. Let's go there and read it so that we can prove it. Let's prove that. Because people think, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters.
Come, the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 6.
Go on.
Reward her, even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double.
See that?
Yes.
Now, let's see. Let's make this very clear. And you need to make good notes here. All right? I'm going to say this slowly so that you can write it down, so that you can remember it. We broke the covenant. However, there was still a covenant with our ancestors. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that was by promise. We broke our covenant by way of animal sacrifices, by way of the law. See that? Our covenant was to keep the law of sacrifices. And if you don't believe that, let's go to Psalms chapter 50 and read verse 5. Psalms chapter 50. I'm going to read verse 5.
The book of Psalms, chapter 50, verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me.
Listen carefully.
Those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice.
See that? We made a covenant unto the Most High God with sacrifices. We broke it. We broke it. Now, who broke it? The Israelites. In case any slow person's out there thinking, well, everybody broke it. Everybody didn't break it. Only Israel broke it because we made a covenant. Con?
Come.
All right. Now I'm nearly finished. I've only got maybe less than half a dozen scriptures, if that. Is everybody clear so far?
Come.
Right? Everybody clear? Right. Yes. I beg your pardon.
Can you repeat what you just read?
Right. Right. For my notes. Okay. We broke our covenant. However, there was still a covenant in place with our ancestors. Who is our ancestors? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we have that by promise. However, we broke our covenant by way of the animal sacrifices, which was a law to us. Our covenant was to keep the law of sacrifice. That was in Psalms chapter 50 and verse 5. Read it again for me, please, Captain.
Yes, sir. The book of Psalms, chapter 50 and verse 5, it reads, Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice.
By sacrifice. And remember, the covenant to us was that all of Israel, all 12 tribes, would inherit the earth. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because Oftentimes, people will say, just the land of Israel. Nah, that's part of it. But the 12 tribes are to inherit the whole earth. The whole earth. Why? Our people, our substance, down the road will overtake the land of promise, no problem. So how do we get around this? It has to be the earth. Everywhere. Now, this is where the enemy messed up. Because they forgot the law that was pronounced on Israel, which was, everywhere the soles of your feet are trod, you own it, baby. So that means then, everywhere you took us and dragged us as slaves across the entire earth, you made a mistake by making us walk on that terra firma, because once we walked in it, we own it, and you don't. And so this is why they don't get the scriptures, because if they understood it, they would never have dragged us out of the land. And so that covenant that he has made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was for us to inherit the earth. The earth, not just the land of Israel over there. That's a part of it, but that's not the big part. The big part is the earth. That's why when those Palestinians and those so-called Israelis over there are fighting, all we do is just go, oh. Because that's a nothingness in the bigger scope of things. All right. Yes, sir.
Are we referring to the covenant that's in Exodus 24, 7 and 8?
Let's go there and read it. I don't recall it completely. Let's go there and read it. And then, Isaiah, you're next because your hand was up. Okay, good. Go ahead. Exodus 24, 7 and 8. Is that right?
The book of Exodus, chapter 24, verse 7. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said,
I remember now.
All that the Most High have said will we do. And be obedient.
And do what?
And be obedient.
And be obedient. Go on.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Most High have made with you concerning all these words.
Yeah, remember that. All right, so Isaiah.
Yeah, I was talking in Matthew 5 and 5.
Matthew 5 and 5, let's go. Matthew chapter 5 and 5, let's read.
The book of Matthew chapter 5 and verse 5. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Come, very good. Matthew chapter 5 and 5. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they that mourn. So yes, and we are the blessed. That's why all of those points to us. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Go ahead, sir.
2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born, of him Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world.
Read.
And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
Go on. All right, now let's see if we can end this. We're going to go back 3 more scriptures. So let's go to Acts chapter 3 and verse 25, please. Acts chapter 3 and 25, let's read.
The book of Acts chapter 3 and verse 25. It reads, Ye are the children of the prophets.
See, so it's making it very clear. You are the children of the prophets. You are. Go on.
and of the covenant
And of the covenant. Go on.
which God made with our fathers,
Which he made with our ancestors, our fathers. Go on.
saying, unto Abraham,
Unto what?
unto Abraham,
Unto Abraham. Go on.
and in thy seed shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed.
Boom. That's it. That's it. Psalms 148, verse 14. All right.
The book of Psalms, chapter 148, verse 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye Yahweh.
Come on. So we are the children near unto him, right? All right. Let's go back to Acts. Let's finish up that verse by reading verse 26. Acts
Yes, sir.
chapter.
3:26.
Yes.
The book of Acts, chapter 3 and verse 26. It reads, unto you first, God having raised up his son, Yahushua.
What?
God raised up his son, Yahushua,
Go on.
sent him to bless you in turning away every one of you from his iniquity.
From your sin.
Come.
Come on. Let's go to Sirach chapter 44. Sirach chapter 44 and 19.
The book of Sirach, chapter 44, verse 19. Abraham was a great father of many people.
Read it again.
Abraham was a great father of many people.
Go on.
In glory was there none like unto him,
None like unto him. Read.
who kept the law.
Who did what?
Who kept the law
Go on.
of the Most High,
Read.
and was in covenant with
And was
him.
what?
And was in covenant
And was in covenant. Go on.
with him. He established the covenant in his flesh.
Go on.
And when he was proved, he was found faithful.
He was found faithful. Now, when it said established covenant in his flesh, what does that mean? By show of hands. All right, so you have two hands over there, one hand over there. All right. All right, Yasharala, let me hear.
Okay, so yeah, establish agreement with them.
Say that again.
Yes, establish an agreement with them. Agreement.
No. No. All right. Isaiah, circumcision. So it's circumcision. Let's read it again to make sure everybody understands that.
Yes, sir. Sirach, chapter 44, verse 20. Who kept the law of the Most High, and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh.
In his where?
In his flesh.
In his flesh. In his flesh.
Come.
Go on.
And when he was proved, he was found faithful.
Come on.
The precept again is Philippians 3 and 5.
Let's read on.
Come.
Therefore,
Sirach chapter 44 and verse 21.
read.
Therefore, he assured him by an oath.
By what?
By an
Now
oath.
remember what I said to you about that word oath. That's very important. Read.
That he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth.
As the what?
As the dust of the
As
earth.
the dust of the earth. Go on.
And exalt his seed.
And do what?
And exalt his seed as the stars.
As what?
As the stars.
Go on.
And cause them to inherit from sea to sea,
From sea to sea. Go on.
and from the river unto the outmost part of the land.
So it shows you, sea to sea means every country is not out of our boundaries. Every country is within our boundaries. Read on.
Yes, sir. With Isaac did he establish likewise for all men and the covenant, and made it rest upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing,
Go on.
and gave him an heritage, and divided his portions among the 12 tribes.
Among who?
Among the 12 tribes.
Moab,
Among the 12 tribes.
Ammon,
Among the 12 tribes.
Elam,
Among the 12
the
tribes.
Amalekites,
Among the 12 tribes.
among the 12 tribes. Go on.
Did he part them?
Did he part them? There's no mistaking who this is about. Come on. And we're done. Any questions from anyone? Any questions online?
Yes, there is a question.
Question online? Yeah, let me take questions online.
Ishmael was blessed by a covenant, but he is not required to abide by any laws.
Say that one more time.
Ishmael was blessed by a covenant, but he is not required to abide by any laws? Question mark.
All right. Covenant.
Hold on, I did see.
Right. Covenant. Ishmael is blessed by a covenant. All right. Let's see what that covenant is. Can whoever said that, can they give book, chapter, verse?
Genesis 17:19.
Genesis 17 and 19.
Yeah, right there.
All right. Let's read that. Let's read that.
The book of Genesis, chapter 17 and verse 19, it reads, And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
All right. So my question is, not my question.
Verse 20, I'm sorry.
Verse 20.
Verse 20. Okay, right.
It says, And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee, behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
Go on.
But my covenant will I establish with Isaac.
Right. So we see that the word covenant does not reside with Ishmael,
Con.
only with Isaac. Come on. All right. So any other points? Any other points? Any other questions?
No.
All right. So I think we've pretty much covered that. And any questions that anybody have? Any questions that anybody have?
So I can go ahead.
I have a roundabout question.
That's fine.
I have a roundabout question. A question in the beginning, when the Most High created the men of the wicked, the men of the nations, the men of God.
All right, so let me repeat what you're saying so that those online can hear. In the beginning, the Most High established the
three types of men.
the three types of men.
So there are obviously other men in the world.
No
Besides
other men in
us.
the world.
So the Egyptians, how do they fit in that equation?
Let's go to Genesis chapter 10. Now, Genesis chapter 10, just as again, I always like to make things very easy. Genesis chapter 10 is always your go-to scripture to understand the different groups, where they came from, and how they have established. Okay? So if you just remember, Genesis chapter 10 is your go-to, then you can break it down from there and understand who it's is speaking about. Now, Genesis chapter 10, verse 6. Now we're going to establish for you as the who's who. All right? Go ahead.
The book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Septa, and Ramah, and Septakah. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod, and began to be a mighty one in the earth.
Go on.
And he was a mighty hunter before the Most High, Wherefore is it said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Most High, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar.
Jump to 12.
Verse 12. And Rezin, between Nineveh and Calah.
Here we go.
The same is a great city. And Mesraim. Mesraim begot Ludim, and Ananim, and Lahabim, and Naphtatuhim, and Patharusim, and Calisuim, and out of whom came Philistim. And
All right, we'll stop there.
Come.
Now, Mizraim, that's your Egyptians.
So they're derivatives of Ham.
Everybody comes from Ham. The mightiest race on the earth originally was the black race, which was Ham. Ham was the mightiest of them all. And after Ham covered it and conquered and owned everything, then came Japhet. Japhet, whom today we call Japhet, they now became vagabonds in the respect that they traveled from place to place to place to place. They didn't really establish an order. Now, you kind of know that when you read Genesis chapter 2 and verse 4. Sorry, Genesis chapter 2, from 2 down to verse 5. Because it is there that we see that the first people who are called Gentiles comes out of Japhet. Let's read it, sir.
The book of Genesis, chapter 2 and verse 4. These are the generations of the heavens of the earth.
Go on.
When they were created, in the day that the Most High God made the earth and the heavens.
Go on.
And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew.
All right, let's stop. Go to Genesis chapter 10, read verse 2.
Genesis chapter 10 and verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Medai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus.
Go on.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz,
Ashkenazi, those are the Jews today. Go on.
and Riphtah, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha.
Now, Javan, they are the ones that eventually later on became the Greeks. Go on.
And Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim.
Tarshish, those who are Tarshish, those are the ones that became the Spaniards. Kittim were the ones who became the Romans. Let's keep going.
And Dogdiam.
Let me speak, sir. Go on.
And Dodiam. And by these were the isles of the Gentiles.
See, the isles of the Gentiles divided. Go on.
Divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families in their nations.
In their nation.
Come.
Now, although they look small here, that was their beginning.
Come.
But they became monsters. They just grew out of control because they did something that the other races didn't do. The other races stuck to themselves. These mixed with everybody else they were going. Because remember, the Ashkenazis, at one point, they were under our... Look, let me paint this picture because sometimes I think we don't really fully understand it. When Yahushua came, it was the importance that he came during the Roman era. It was important because he came when the Greeks had now fallen out of power and now the Romans were in, and that was important. Here is what he saw when he came, and you have to imagine this. This is Yahushua looking on the earth, and as he's looking, he's seeing people calling themselves Jews. And he's looking at white men who were Herods, and remember, Herod was a white man, and he was king of the Jews. How would that be? You white, you king of black people, don't make no sense. But that's what he was doing. So when Yahushua came now, And he was a black man, and he had his fro, and he's looking around, and he knows he's a Jew, and he's seeing people who look like other nations calling themselves who he is. It was puzzling. And you'll notice that there are certain times he would combat them in conversations because he had to prove to them that you are not who you say you are. You see? And that was the beauty of Yahushua, and that's why he spent much of his time doing two things: teaching and then going away. Teaching and then going away. Because they were looking for him to kill him. And remember, those who were him, who was in the temples, they did not want him to make all the noise about what was going on and what he saw, because they were afraid that the Romans would come and take away their position and their place. In other words, Al Sharpton wanted to keep that $1 million coming in a year. Jesse Jackson wanted to keep that $1 million coming in a year. Our people were like, well, remember, even Martin Luther King, that everybody, we had a brother here who would swear by him. But even him, Martin Luther King, he was getting that, once he was getting that money, he kept his mouth shut when he should have opened up his trap. And the only person who was talking freely and in the end was snug was Malcolm X. And then it was at the end that Martin Luther King realized he made a mistake and said it publicly. I've made an error.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, yeah, say it, Doctor.
Grace
and peace.
Before you left, you said, I brought my people into a burning house.
I have brought mine into a burning hell.
That's right.
He recognized that he made an error. The so-called great Martin Luther King. I'm not saying he didn't do good. He did do good. But he had his problems. Because even he liked pork. And I'll leave it at that. All right, any other questions from anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, he like all manner of pork.
Yeah, all manner.
Oh, man.
All manner.
But I wanted to.
From the hooter to the toot. Okay, from the roots to the toot.
I'm using that based on what we learned pork also represented.
Con, exactly. And that, well, that's what I was talking about.
Oh.
That's the pork I was talking about.
That's right.
He liked that white meat. Make it plain. All right, go ahead.
I wanted to, I had a question about Genesis 5 and 2.
Genesis 5 and 2, let's go back to it. Let's read.
The book of Genesis, chapter 5 and verse 2. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called them their name Adam, in the day when they were created.
So I never noticed that it said, and he blessed them.
Yes.
So it's a two-parter. Was the blessing given in the law? And then my second question is that a similitude for how the fathers bless their sons thereafter throughout the generations?
Got you. All right, let's read it again. So read it from the top.
Yes, sir. The book of Genesis, chapter 5 and verse 2.
Read it from the top.
Salakia, verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam, in the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him.
Go on.
Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam.
That's why all male, all female were called Adam. Go on.
In the day when they were created.
The day when they were created. Go on.
And Adam lived 130.
All right, so back to your question. So your question was, and bless them, meaning what exactly?
Meaning, what was the blessing that he gave them? Was it
Okay.
long life? Was
Right.
it the law?
Yes. The blessing that was given to them here was the same blessing that goes back to chapter 1. Go forth and multiplied. Let's see where that is.
Verse 27.
Yeah, go ahead and read both, sir.
Come. The book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them.
Come.
And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it.
Go on.
And have dominion over the fish of the sea.
All right, stop there. So it's telling us here, this is about seed. This is about multiplication. So the blessing that we read back in Genesis chapter 5.
Genesis chapter 5.
Go ahead, sir.
Genesis chapter 5 and verse 2. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created.
So the blessing was to multiply. To multiply. And the reason why I'm using male and female, because when they come together to multiply, there was no barrenness back in those days. Everyone just produced. A woman got pregnant easy, and it was easy for a man to sow seed. And in fact, it's Sirach. It says when you find a good, let me find that real quickly for you. Bear with me just for a quick minute. Let's go to Sirach chapter 26 and verse 19 through verse 21.
The book of Sirach, chapter 26 and verse 19. My son, keep the flower of thine age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers. When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession through all the field, sow it with thine own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock.
You see, in the kingdom, as I said, you're going to be quite surprised. I mean, there's going to be a whole lot of seed. There's going to be a whole lot of that. It will be done right. It will be done according to the law. But it will be done plenteously. You see, the white man has made us to believe that sex is sin. He's also made us to believe that it's ungodly and unsightful. But that's because of their own stuck-up ignorance. Because remember, most of the teaching of sexuality came by way of nuns and monks. What are you going to tell someone about sex when you're abstaining and you are taking a rope and beating your back every night to keep your flesh under subjection? You got no business telling people about that. And then they were calling the so-called blacks in the so-called black continent, they were saying that they breed like rabbits because we were blessed to do that. You see? And in the kingdom, we're going to be blessed even the more to do that continually, because that will be part of bringing our brothers and sisters back into existence by way of regeneration.
Verse 21.
Yes, sir, read it.
Sirach, chapter 26, verse 21. So thy race, which thou livest.
Read it again. So thy what?
So thy race.
There's the word race. What race? Israel.
Come.
Go on.
Which thou leavest shall be magnified, having the confidence of their good descent.
Good descent. You see? So the things that we were taught that was evil and nasty and all this, and listen, even in the so-called black families, when you're raised as a child, sex is a nasty thing. It's surprising how the thing that was nasty is the very thing that when you grew up, you wanted a whole lot of. Now, I'm just being real up in hell. So that's why, again, we've been taught a very reverse understanding of many of the things that occur in the scriptures. You have to procreate. It's part of who we are. And the other nation, the so-called white race hates it because we do it well. And there are three groups of people in the world today who procreate and bring forth seed well. Who are they? Who are they? Go ahead, sir. Grace and peace.
Our people, Asians,
Our people, who's the next? Asians, who's the third? Now, hold it. I don't like the word Asian. To tell that, I like, because Asian encompasses whatever. So our people, who's the next? Chinese people. Chinese people breed like bunny rabbits too. Who else? Elam. So you have the so-called Pakistanis or Indian, as they're called. That's what the white man called them. What is their original name? What are their origins? I see your hand, but I want someone else. What are their origins? What the so-called Pakistani, the so-called Indian, what is their origin? Yes, ma'am. They're Persians. They are the original Persians. They are that conquering race. People look at them now, they just can't believe that. You were the Persians? Yes. They were the Persians that when they set to sea, the sea, you could hardly see the sea because their boats covered everywhere. They were one of the greatest armies in the history of mankind. Don't play with the Persians. The Persians were no joke. That's why they had conquered so much. So the Persians, who are the Pakistanis today, and the so-called Indians. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
That makes sense because they always talk about China having a billion, India having a billion.
Exactly.
And if we weren't scattered everywhere,
Absolutely.
and aborting our babies,
Absolutely.
we would be at a billion too.
Absolutely. And that's why the Chinese is another group that produces seed a great deal. And remember, the Chinese and Japanese, they have splintered off groups because it's the same people. People say, well, we're not the same. You are the same.
Right.
You are the same. Chinese, Moab, all of the other group, Indonesians and all of that business. The only reason why Indonesians are called Indian because they're mixed with Elam and the so-called Chinese. That's why they're Indonesia. You see? But all the Vietnamese, they're all the same. You're all the same. The Bible says there are 18 nations. So either the Bible is lying, and I know it's not, or you're lying, and I believe you are. See? So when it comes down to those people, and the reason why I tend to put a lot of emphasis, because I don't want you to get lost in the source. Because it's like we've all drank the Kool-Aid, and our head's been spinning for a while. But now we're sober. Let's speak what we know to be truth. Can't? That's how we should now operate. That's why when that Chinese lady came up in front of us the other day, and she said, well, so who are you? She said, I'm Asian. I said, no, be more specific, if you please. And then she said, Chinese. What the heck's going on here? We can look at you and know that you're Chinese. Don't be playing with us up in here. Got no time for that nonsense, man. So we have to let them know who they are.
That's right.
I go to a lot of homes. When I go to the home, they like to, oh, you African American. I said, no, I'm not African. I'm not American. I'm not any of those things. Right? She said, so what are you then? Israel. Israel? Israel? You know Israel. I said, I am Israel. Because they see our color as being something else. And it's your job to make people educated as to who you are. When you're filling out the new census, you don't put in the census African American. Stop with that nonsense. Now you know you're Israel. I'm Israel. Go on. All right, I've got a question from online.
Explain the difference between blessing and covenant again, please.
Blessing and covenant. Again. All right. Let's let the brothers. Let's put it out so the brothers can see if they were fine. What is the difference? The question online is, what is the difference between blessing and covenant? Blessing and covenant. So, who can tell me here? You've been following for an hour and 2 hours, so you must know by this time. What is the difference between blessing and covenant.
Yes.
Grace and peace of God.
A covenant is an agreement. That is an agreement. And a blessing is something that the Most High gives upon you when you keep the commandments.
It's a little weak, but I see where you're trying to go. So I can't go against you with that because you're making a good attempt. But let's be more specific. Brothers, help him out. Don't let the brother say. He's got the guts to say something. Some of you follow. Go ahead, sir.
A blessing is when, say for instance, somebody gives you something once or maybe twice. That can be, we will call it a blessing. A covenant is an agreement, a contract with a person to say, I will continually do this throughout the generations. That type of scenario. In other words, it's like I have this agreement with Jamie that, hey, you know what?
All right, hold it. I'm going to add more confusion to it to make sure that you really get it. What is the difference then between a blessing, a covenant, and a promise?
Okay. Blessing is like a gift, like I say, like a one-time gift.
Give me scripture then. Brother, you've got Genesis right in front of you where there's all sorts of blessings going on. So begin there. Let's deal with the blessing first. Let's deal with it in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 28.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 28. God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply.
Notice, that's why you have to be aware of the words that I use. Read it again slowly. Let me just prove my point.
Genesis chapter 1 and verse 28. And God blessed them.
So it said God blessed them, right?
And God
blessed them, and then what?
And God said unto them.
Then he said, right? This is what he's about to say. Read.
Be fruitful.
Read it again.
Be.
Stop. Read it again.
Be.
Be. Be is a word that you can hinder.
Come.
You could either be it or don't be it.
Come.
So it's not saying that because he said be, it's going to happen. You have it's like the other word, let. The scripture says, let this mind be in you. Meaning then, you have the power not to let it be in you.
That's right.
So now he's saying, he says here, be what now?
Be fruitful.
So he's telling you, this is what you have to be. Whether you are or not, that's based on your actions. So he said, read it from the top, 28 from the top.
And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply.
So now, these are the conditions of your blessing. It's in multiplication. Go on.
Come. And replenish.
And in replacing. Meaning that once one is done, you replace that one and you keep on replenishing. Go on.
The earth and subdue it.
And subdue, here's the other blessing, means to take control. When you subdue something, subdue that man, you take control of it. So he's not doing whatever it was he was doing. Go on.
And have dominion.
And the word dominion means rulership, where we get the word kingdom. So dominion, king dominion. So kingdom means to have king rulership. Dominion here means you take rulership. Go on? All right. So now we understand blessing. Now the next one is promise. We just went through 2.5 hours of teaching this, so do. So, who can tell me? What is the promise? Before we get to covenant, what is the promise? And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because notice how the scriptures teach it. Blessing, then promise, then covenant. Go on. So, promise. Anyone? Anyone, male or female? Any promises? Any promises out there? Yes, go ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Genesis chapter 17, verse 19. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant.
And why is that so here? Why is it? Because you see the word covenant, you say, wait, let's talk about covenant. But read it again from the top, sir.
Genesis chapter 17, verse 19. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed.
Shall bear you a son indeed. Why is that important?
Because she was barren.
She was barren, yes, but there's a word that I need. Who's raising their hand? Go ahead. Well, no. Yes, it had to. Yes, in this case, it had to. But what I need is just a little bit more. Yes, it is. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. But I wanted a little bit more. Why is it says that, and God said, Sarah, thy wife, shall bear thee a son indeed. Right? And then it said, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. Why is that so important? Because Isaac now is whom? Whom is Isaac? What is he? No, he's the son of what?
Promise.
He's the son of the promise.
Son.
He's the son of the promise. You see? That's why it doesn't need to say promise there, because the moment the name Isaac comes up, because the name Isaac means laughter, because she was laughing at this promise that was made to her. Because the Most High said, or Yahweh said, I will be with you again, this time, down the road. You see? So that's what this is speaking about here. Can't? Because Isaac is a type and figure of Yahweh. He was a promise. He's a promise unto Abraham and Sarah. He's the promise. See? So that's why well done, Sister Wanda, for bringing that up. You see? Because, as I said, if you remember the scriptures in place, and if you remember Genesis chapter 17, it's the one that is going to tell you about the covenants anyway. The covenant, I should say. And it's really talking about the beginning of the covenant. All right? That's why when you jump back, to prove that, read verse 7, sir.
Yes, sir. Genesis chapter 17, verse 7, it reads, and I will establish my...
There it is. Because he's going to establish, because it wasn't there before. So he says, and I will establish my what?
My covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in the generations, for an everlasting covenant.
For an everlasting covenant. So once it's established, it has to come through the Son, so that the Son is going to produce through everyone else who comes after, which is Jacob, and then all of Jacob's progenitors after that. Can't? Any other questions on that?
No, Pastor.
I'm sorry?
No, Pastor.
Okay. All right. So is that pretty clear to everyone? I mean, it's not, it's self-explanatory. Well, not self-explanatory, but it should be easily explained because of how it is set out. Huh? Yes. Good, good.
You got another one? Lord, you can see.
Go ahead.
I just wanted just a confirmation.
Oh no,
When I'm having
you can ask as much as you like.
when I'm having these conversations and y'all answer my text, I won't be like, oh, or whatever. Like, so blessing, I get that the power of the word be is up to you. Do
Come on.
this. If he tells you to do it, it's up to you to do it.
Right.
Like Deuteronomy.
Right.
And then promise, if God says he will, it doesn't matter if you don't see it.
Absolutely.
I will.
Absolutely. The promise has not, whether you do or not, because remember, let's prove that even more. Take me to where, I was going to say, but take me to where he had to leave his father, Abraham. Take me to where that is. Take me to where that is. He tells him that he has to leave his father. Tell me.
Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1.
Genesis chapter what?
Genesis chapter 12 and starting verse 1.
Go ahead, let's read, because that's the call of Abraham.
The book of Genesis, chapter 12 and verse 1. Now the Most High had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee.
Why does he want him to get away? Because where your father's an idol maker, and he's into idolatry. He's the one making the idols for Nimrod and all of those people, and he won't leave that Hamite alone. So I need to remove you from your father. So, and plus, he relies on your father too much to be in that ungodly state. So you get away. Read on now. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee.
And I will bless them that bless you. Go on.
And curse him that curseth thee.
Go on.
And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
All the families of the earth be blessed. Genesis chapter 27 and 39. 27 and 29.
Genesis chapter 27, verse 29, it reads, Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee.
All right. So now we see that Abraham leaves his father, right? And remember, the blessing is already on him, right? So jump now. We're still in chapter 12. Jump down to verse 10.
Genesis chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore, it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say,
10. We're 10.
Verse 10, come. Genesis chapter 12, verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land.
Go on.
And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai, his wife, Behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon.
Go on.
Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive.
All right. So jump down to verse 14.
Verse 14, it reads, And it came to pass, that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair.
Jump down to 17.
Verse 17, And Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues, because Sarai begat Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? And Salaki, why sayest thou, She is my sister, so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her, and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had.
Go on.
And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, and silver, and in gold.
All right, now, so back to your question. Run that Bible one more time.
Just making just a distinction when you said the difference between blessing and promise and covenant.
Right.
Just to clarify those that are present in the verses.
Right.
You pointed out the power of the word be.
Right.
It's conditional. It's up to you. Or let, or the word let.
All that, yes.
And the promise, if it comes forth from his mouth and he says, I will,
Yes.
he will.
Right. So now, remember the promise was never broken. The only thing that was broken was the law with Israel. We understand that. And that's when we went to Romans, in that chapter 9, and we started to go through there. All right. Now, before we answer any more questions, is there any more online questions? We need to let our online people go so that they can rest a little bit. So, no question? Well, we hope that you have been blessed by this particular teaching that we had this morning. And we hope that you continue to walk steadfast in the word of the Most High God on this Pentecost. Pentecost for us is a very important time and season. Now, before we dismiss and separate from you, can anyone here tell me what does the word Pentecost mean, so that our online viewers can share that knowledge? Who can tell me what does Pentecost? Or you've been celebrating something, you don't know what it is? What? All right, Sister Sue, let's have you, man. It means what? What did you say before that? You said 50? All right, yes. I thought you said something else. Did you say something?
The count of 50. The count of 50.
Oh, the count of 50, or the number of 50. Got you. All right. Yes, it means 50. So, what does that mean to us? Gentlemen, who can tell me, what does that mean to us, 50? Because remember, there's something called numerology. All numbers have a meaning to us. All numbers. Yes? Jubilee. And Jubilee is a celebration. So in the kingdom, when we celebrate Pentecost, it will be jubilant. It will be a wonderful time. And that's why in Christianity they say there's no drinking. Oh, they'll be drinking in Jubilee. Better believe that, they'll be drinking it. But remember this as well, that our drinking is done decently and in order, because it's meant to bring joy. For those of you that don't understand, when the first miracle that Yahushua did was at the wedding in Canaan, and the scenario behind it, the spiritual meaning behind it, was that when the wine ran out, it meant that the joy of that wedding was run out. So what did Yahushua have to do? He came now, and his mother asked him, can you do something? She had enough faith to believe that he could. He took water and turned it into wine. What was the purpose of that? To show you that Yahushua, he can bring the joy back into something that it either run out or finish. And when it comes to us as Israel, seems like the joy has run out. But he's coming back again. And he's coming back to bring us joy. So on behalf of Captain and myself and those of us that are here, we want to say, Rokatha Yahweh, Yahweh Ba'Shem HaMashiach Yahushua, Selah.